In a video yesterday, and if you didn't watch that video, it was about the weather and about the fact that they keep saying that we've had 3 heat waves. And I actually did mess that video up a bit because I said I went from 3 to 2. They said we'd had 2 and we were about to have a third, and then I started saying they said we'd had. Anyway, I knew what I meant, and I think you did as well. I said to you that the third hadn't happened yet, although it was very, very likely to, because when I recorded that, was it yesterday, we'd only had 1 or 2 days of 28. It has to be 28 or above to class as heat wave for 3 days. And I said to you, it's very likely to happen, but they're banking it as the what do they call it? The third heat wave of the summer, which it's not. And today was supposed to be the day that breaks that and makes it a heat wave in certain places. Some places have had a small heat wave. Not a small. There's no such thing as a small heat wave. Sorry, some places have had a heat wave as of yesterday. Not many. Some places fell short with the temperature. Today, a lot of people were forecasting to be the peak of the heat wave. Well, today where I am, the maximum is aimed at 26. It might get a bit higher. 28 is pushing it. It's probably not going to make it. It was only 14 degrees last night, so it's a hell of a lot of heating that's got to be done. Don't get me wrong, beautiful day, lovely, nothing to complain about, but I'm just saying, yesterday in London, I think it got to 28 or 27 point something. Basically, I don't know if they made it in London either, and today the forecast for London, I didn't think was 28, I thought it was 27. I've got to check that. Don't get me wrong, just because it's forecast for 27 doesn't mean it won't get to 29, but they were only a couple of days ago they were forecasting it as 36 in their hopeful way that they do. My only point is to add this onto the video yesterday that I made, is that it looks as though in a lot of counties, maybe all counties, I've got to check the records once it's happened or not happened, maybe that third heat wave, which will only actually have been the second heat wave, they're just lying about it being the third one, which I talked about and proved yesterday. It means that third heat wave, which would only really been the second heat wave, would also not have happened in most counties, meaning that there would have only have been 1 heat wave this year and 1 in a couple of counties, meaning 1 heat wave. And how could you call it 2 heat waves if you got it in 2 counties? Do you know what I mean? So lovely weather, close to heat wave. So I'm not sure. I've got to look at the data properly. I've got to wait until today is over. Because today in some places will be hotter than others because the weather's changing. So there are places where it could get to 30 today. I've got to wait until today's over, and then I'm going to find out, as I always do, how many places had a heat wave. Now, to the AI. The AI, which has been telling me, I told you, on a daily basis that we've had 3 heat waves. When I ask it to break it down, it can't. When I give it the appropriate information, it goes and checks that information and then says, I agree with you. We have had only 1 heat wave this year. And that wasn't including what's happening now, because obviously this hadn't happened yet, so we didn't know if there was going to be a second heat wave. So I said, so you agree there hasn't been 3 heat waves, there's been 1. And we went through all the scientific reasons as to why, and the AI said, yes, I agree with you. I've been influenced by media, by social media, and I didn't look at the actual temperatures, and it said there's only been 1 heat wave. Today, because we're looking at the second, or as they say, the third heat wave, but the second heat wave possibly, I asked AI today, so bear in mind a week of asking AI, no, 2 weeks actually now, time's gone past quicker than I realised, 2 weeks of asking AI about heat waves, and for 2 weeks it is maintained, or 10 days it's maintained we've had 2 heat waves. It's maintained that the dates of them, and every day when I've challenged it and told it what the actual temperatures were, it's agreed with me, it's checked those temperatures, and it's even then talked about why. Today when I asked it, and I will record this, but today when I asked it about how many heat waves we had this year, it said, I don't have information on how many heat waves we've had this year. I said, you're now telling me after 7 days you can't, because it doesn't remember the conversation from the day before. I said, after 7 days or however many it's been, you can't tell me what happened yesterday. Or you can't look at weather information. It said, I can look at weather information, but I'm having problem accessing how many heat waves we've had this year. Now, to explain, come here. To explain, we've had um, the AI constantly predicting and telling me this heat waves, like I say, it's between 7 and 10 days, really, really confidently. And that's why when I had the conversation with AI, I said, you do realize people won't push you, and the answer you give, they'll trust. And it said yes. So when I asked it today, how many heat waves have there been? For the first time, the answer changed. I don't know how many heat waves there's been this year in the UK. What do you mean you don't know how many heat waves there's been? You should know. You should know. I can't access that information at the moment. So can you access any weather information? Yes, I can access weather information. Well, you can access weather information, so why can't I ask you how many heat waves there's been this year? I currently don't have access to that information. Well, you saw the last time I recorded it. No, sorry, what I said about it the last time when I was on here. So it's completely now just blocking me from even asking the question. I tried every single which way. There's normally a way around it, and I tried every which way. This is Google. And it's just blocking me from even trying to get that information now. So it's either blocking that information, or it knows it's got it wrong so many times. It's not answering because it knows it'll get it wrong. I don't know if it's the machine learning or if it's being blocked from giving an answer. But it cannot and will not tell me the same bit of information it has been proudly espousing to me for the last 7 to 10 days. So you make of that what you will. And like I say, they've been, one of the days they had audacious enough to forecast 39 degrees, and on that day, I don't think we got above 29 degrees. Just to show you how desperate they are for us to break records. They are forecasting records. So, for instance, when the weather gets really bad at the moment, they're constantly forecasting it still being 24 and bad. That has happened, but that's not really the way the weather works in this country. But they're so desperate. And I've even seen them. So, I told you there's a weather app, a lot of weather apps powered by the Met Office that are updated every 2 hours. I've seen the temperature get to whatever it gets to. And then I've seen the next day when you look back at what it says the temperature record was, they've set the temperature to whatever they forecast, not what the temperature actually was, even by their own metrics, even by their own measurements, their own instruments. They contradicted it with what they'd written the next day. I'll have to show you proof of all this because it means nothing without it. But just think, this is just the weather. This is just the weather. To a lot of people, it's just the weather. If you think they'll go to such intricate lies and intricate ways of manipulating things to make headlines, to make all this other stuff, and a lot of it is just to make headlines, sell summer papers, because silly season, summer, and all the rest of it, it is something they can make news about. But at the same time, people will walk away believing that we've had as many heat waves this year as we did in 2022. They will walk away believing that this is a sign of climate change. And all we've had, if I'm totally honest with you, is some very, very good luck. We had a hot year in 2018, hot year in 2020, but hot year in 2020 wasn't a special year. It was just a nice-ish summer. But it was remembered more fondly because it was COVID and people couldn't go out in it. So it seemed, but it was a nice summer. So 2018, 2020, 2022. So it seemed like we were on a 2-year thing. 2022 hottest summer recorded. I know people talk about the summer in '76, but what you got to remember is the numbers don't match how people remember it. '76 is a long time ago now, and people will often say, yeah, it was definitely hotter in '76 because I remember it starting in March and ending. Whatever you remember is what it doesn't matter. It was hot. It was the hottest summer that anybody who lived through it can remember. And people will always cite the tarmac melting as a symptom of the fact that it must have been hotter. Well, tarmac was made differently back then, and it wasn't heat resistant back then. So yeah, that sort of thing would have happened. And it does happen still now, but it's less. It's more rare. So 76 was a very, very special summer, and one that may never be beat in certain ways because of its consistency. But the fact of it is, it was bested by 2018 in some ways. Again, it depends how they manipulate the numbers. Um, as I said, in 2022, we had more days over 30 than we've ever had, ever. So that will beat, and that beat 1976 by about, I think it was by about 5 or 6 days, like consecutively. So it smashed 1976, just to be clear. And I'm not shitting on that summer. That summer was amazing, even though I wasn't around. I was only just born. But from every account, it was an amazing summer. 2018 broke every record until 2022 came along, which broke every record. This year's come along, and it's sort of broken some records, but it's nothing like that other weather. That other weather was El Nino based, and I don't think this is. This is a different set of circumstances. This is luck. All weather's luck, but this is more luck than anything. Hence their propensity for keep getting it wrong. They want to believe that we're just a country that has heat waves now, which is why they forecast probably 4 bits of nice weather and probably 5, 6 heat waves in total, and they've got virtually none of them right on the dates that they said they would. If you remember me going back a long time ago now and saying we're having hot weather, but never on the days that they're saying. Like, do you remember when I said to you, it was 2 weeks after they forecast nice weather that we actually ended up with it, and they claimed that as a victory. And yet the 2 weeks that they got the weather wrong every single day was not counted as a failure. That's what I mean by all that. So, the weather was warm during that period. It was lovely. It just wasn't what they said it was. They're completely and utterly incompetent, and bragging about the equipment they've got and the stuff that they've got and the money they've spent on it. And if I was them at the moment, I'd be keeping very, very quiet, because someone's going to end their contract before long. It's happened before, and it's going to happen again if they're not careful. But it's all just lies. And I know a lot of people aren't interested in weather, but if you think of the amount of effort that's going into manipulate numbers, that's going into manipulate headlines, everything else, then surely you must realise all the other things they're hiding. Imagine the effort and money they're putting into that. It really puts it into perspective. Anyway, Tom Fury, Tom's Generation X. Sorry, not my most exciting video. I'm just chilling while I got the chance to chill. So take it easy.